the main event, Cardinals Rewind, preseason game number 2. Jason Carter's on the phone here. Mr. Carter, as I talk over you, how do you think game number 2, preseason 2, against the Raiders went in that 33-26 loss to the Raiders for the Arizona Cardinals?
Well, that was a full-up drubbing, if I ever saw one. First string, not so hot. I mean, of course, Kyler Murray got taken out after getting a safety when they were down 26-0 midway through the second quarter. So, didn't look good in that retrospect. But the team, they fought back hard. They finished the game, which was nice to see Drew Armstrong late there in the fourth getting a touchdown. So, I mean, all in all, it's preseason. I'm not putting a whole lot of stuff in it. I think it's pretty deceiving how preseason is. But, I mean, I think Brett Hundley, definitely a lock in the backup spot, not going anywhere. Trent Sherfield continued to shine for his 140-yard catch that was a touchdown. So I definitely have high hopes for those two.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, before we get on the everybody jumping off the Kyler Murray bandwagon today, I definitely agree. I mean, Brett Hundley is, granted it's preseason, but he's going against second string, but he's going in there and he's looking spectacular. He throws a pretty ball. He throws an accurate football. So I think our backup quarterback situation, if something happens to Kyler Murray, I think our backup situation is pretty good hands right now with that. And you're right with the some of the second stringers, tight ends, receivers and everything. They're looking good out there. But it's preseason, like you said. They're going up against second, third string. Everybody in Phoenix is jumping off the bandwagon after last week. Kyler Murray goes out, like you said. Played almost the whole first half, for those series and everything. But he proceeds to go out there and goes 3 for 8 for 12 yards of total offense. Penalty field offensive line there. After last week, everybody was high up on Kyler Murray. He was fast. He let the ball up. Heck, even I was on board, saying he lets the ball go quick, everything. But the biggest disappointment for me is fundamentals. How do you have, that's just, Kyler Murray had 2 false start penalties for clapping his hands, which a whole nother subject on that is I hate that college offense in the football, in the pros. It drives me nuts. I hated it when Andy Reid did it with the Eagles. And I'm going to hate it with the Cardinals because you're getting false start penalties because you're faking motions, clapping your hands, and things like that. And I just think that's gimmicky, and I don't like that. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I didn't really like the calls to begin with. I'm a fan. I mean, I don't have an issue with Kingsbury and that being his offense and wanting to do it with the clap. I guess, the NFL, reading the rule book, it's very vague kind of on that situation. So, I mean, that's the one thing. I even saw Kingsbury last night trying to talk to the referee saying, you can totally clap your hands. I don't know why, you're making these stupid calls on him.
The ruling was he was clapping his hands and the balls didn't come. So they were basically saying it was like a hard snap, where they move their heads really quick, is what the refs were calling it. Now it's preseason and the Cardinals have been working on it and they didn't call it in the first game. So maybe this was just this reffing crew not knowing and just doing it, and they'll get that worked out, I think. But overall, 14 penalties for 108 yards in, week 2 of preseason. I think that's an alarming stat. And I know it's preseason and, it's preseason for football, but that's fundamental footballs. And I think that's a horrible sign of things to come.
Yeah, but again, I think there's a couple of those. I think you take those false starts out because, like you said, they'll work their way out. And then that Larry Fitzgerald PI call.
Yes.
Wasn't a big fan of that one either. But, it's preseason for the refs, too.
These preseason calls, I know I tweeted it out last night, and you tweeted out today for a different game where the player came back to catch the ball, and, the defender ran through him, and they called offensive PI, and then it was held up. This PI thing is going to be a joke this year, moving forward. So everybody, including Cardinals fans, better get used to horrible pass interference calls all year long because they're coming. I'm convinced of it at this point. So they go out. Kingsbury and Murray were both unaffected by their poor showing in this game last night. And Kingsbury's made no bones about it. He's not game planning. Very vanilla offense. Here's my issue number 2 is that's preseason game number 2. And I mean, they are very vanilla. They're not trying to throw the ball downfield. Well, Hundley did, but Murray's not trying to throw the ball downfield. They're literally showing nothing. And I don't know, man. How do you feel about that? Because I think that's a mistake leading forward here for the regular season. You've got to be practicing. You don't have to show them your whole playbook, but you've got to be practicing some routine plays you're planning on calling in the regular season in these games. And they're not even attempting it.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because when Murray was in there, they were kind of, like you said, the vanilla offense, not taking shots downfield. And I kind of, understood that, all right, get his feet wet, but it was just a terrible outing for him regardless. And then you get Brett Hundley in there down 26-0, and he just starts airing it out. And I was like, is that really helping out anybody right now at this point? So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. This is preseason game 2. Of course, game 3 will be the rehearsal game, and I imagine game 4 we get Brett Hundley starting that game, I would imagine, followed by Drew Armstrong in the second half. I'm not too sure how that's going to work out with game 4. But, I mean, coming up a week away from the rehearsal game, it's really not where you want to see this team be right now.
Well, the other alarming thing was the Oakland Raiders obviously came in with a game plan against the Cardinals, which most teams don't do. But Rodney Gunther's defense, the alarming thing on it was they were blitzing. They were showing safeties in the box and then pulling them out. They weren't doing a full defensive blitz on there, but they were showing Kyler Murray things. And and now granted, you don't game plan against that or whatnot, but you've got to be practicing that at this point, right? Because you're not going to walk into game 1 against the Lions and all of a sudden Kyler Murray is going to be like, oh, they're dropping a safety in the box. And then he has to figure out if he's going to blitz or somebody else is going to blitz. You're not just going to walk into that week 1 game and know how to do that without practicing in these games, because they were not ready for it at all in this game. And with that safety play is the perfect example. He had no idea where that blitz was coming from. And then he goes down in the end zone, and it's just like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. Like, it did not look good at all. And, flip side, too, injuries, man. I mean, Robert Alford now, that defense, the run defense still didn't look good, and now you're going to have another quarterback out with a broken leg.
Did they announce finally that it's a broken leg? I know it's bad and he's out till middle of the season, but did they announce finally it was a broken leg? Yeah. Well, Steve Keim this morning kept saying that it was a bad break, that they lost another quarterback, and it was like, stop saying that. His leg's broken.
Yeah, definitely was a bad break indeed, and Steve Keim also calling out the players, saying that they got too comfortable today. So, I mean, I feel like this is we've already hit that mid-season point in the season where fans are already wanting to see a change of quarterback, jumping off the wagon. Now your GM's calling out players. It's like, this is supposed to happen in 9 weeks, guys.
Well, that's my whole issue here is, right, so now the question is that you have for the offense is and the defense, because I mean you touched on it a little bit there, but I mean the defense was atrocious. They're not even trying out there. They're literally, it's almost like Pro Bowl defense where the ball snapped and everybody stands straight up, and for the starters at least, everybody stands straight up and nobody does anything. Now there's a lot of grizzled old veterans on there like Terrell Suggs. There's a lot of grizzled veterans on that line and the linebacker core that, quite frankly, we all know aren't going to work very hard in the preseason. But that's the big question for me going into this next game is this team look this bad because it's by design, because they don't game plan and it's just, hey guys, go run around and play? Or is this just a sign of what this team's going to be coming up? And it's impossible to know which way it is, but it's an alarm. You should not be having this question after preseason game number 2. You should have an idea of what your team's going to look like. And we have no clue other than they look horrible.
Well, I mean, to that point, coming off a Tuesday, the team apparently had an outdoor practice, which many said the team looked sloppy and that it was probably Kyler's worst day out on the practice field, and he going to the game last night. It's just one of those things like, what the heck?
Well, going into a season with a rookie quarterback, he's going to have 3 or 4 games where he looks like he's never played football before. Like, Cardinals fans, book it now. It's just a matter of when those games are going to happen. There's going to be 2-3 games where he's not going to be able to hit a receiver. He's going to be off all game. That's just what rookies do. I mean, Andrew Luck, who was the greatest rookie to come out, and recently, even his first year, he had games where he looked like he'd never played. So I mean, Cardinals fans have to get on that. But like you talked about on the defense, it's never a good sign when the opposing team, Raiders safety LaMarcus Joyner, calls the Cards offense during the game, quote, pretty boy football, and he wants to see it banned from the NFL. Like, that's not a good sign. That you're being disrespected by your opposing team, and quite frankly, by a team the Raiders aren't going to be very good, and you're being disrespected by them in a preseason football game. That is not a good sign to me.
Yeah, I'm really interested this week. We're obviously going to see a little bit more of inside the Raiders locker room and the film room and stuff on Hard Knocks. I want to see what was actually being said of the Cardinals on that show. Like that, I'm really intrigued by that.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing how they cut this because they, before the game, like you said, because, I mean, just looking at that, the Raiders actually game plan. Like their first drive with Derek Carr, they game plan that, those plays were set into motion and they had those plays set up. Their defense obviously was game planned because they knew where to go and where to be and everything. But, so that's the big question. And like you said, losing, Robert Alford for, they say extended amount of time. I don't know if they announced the time yet. And then Patrick Peterson being out for the first 6 weeks. Our cornerbacks went from being really strong to really weak. So if our defensive line, which has shown no signs of it so far, but if they can't get to the quarterback, Kyler Murray might be having to score 50 points just to be in a game this year.
Oh, that's what Kingsbury's used to when he was at Texas Tech. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, can he duplicate it in the NFL, So is the question.
They play defense in the NFL there, Cliff.
Well, that's the, and just like the thing that's disappointing, and I did watch other games last night and definitely a lot more highlights than I did in week 1 because a lot more starters played throughout the league. And I can honestly say from just what I saw on there that the Cardinals are the only team that I almost feel like they're not trying. It's like, just go out there and, one-on-one, win your best, see what everybody can do. We're just going to draw a play in the sand and let's see what happens. And the thing that, like I said, scares me is that indicative that, especially because today I read a story about Mike Leach's offense at Washington State. Like The Athletic had a great article. I retweeted it back out about quarterbacks that have been, that played for Mike Leach at Washington State, and just the things they were saying about the carelessness of the lack of care, and play calling and the fundamentals and things like that. So maybe I'm heightened right now to the lack of fundamentals after reading that article. But Kingsbury, obviously comes from that same air raid deal. And, with the penalties last night, even without those false starts, I mean, those penalties were just awful on the offense, just totally horrible, uncalled for. I mean, that's basic football. That you learn that in Pee Wee football, not to do that stuff. And these guys are doing it. So maybe I'm a little heightened right now to the air raid's carelessness of fundamentals and everything, because I am a fundamentals guy. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, right now I'm kind of looking more worried towards the defensive side. Because, last night, even Booger McFarland mentioned it on the ESPN broadcast where he's like, there's no reason the Cardinals are just playing man with them right now. Like, I have no idea, but that's why these guys are getting so wide open, because they're just better than them. And, right now, you got the Cardinals, they're switched back to the 3-4 scheme. You'd like to see them kind of get this scheme in place and get it shored up before you head into week 1.
Yeah, that's my most disappointing thing is that's fine. Go out there, preseason game, lose the game, who cares, right? But that's my thing is like the second, third stringers are going into these games and looking really good, and the offense is not even like I said, doesn't even feel like they're trying out there. They're just, hey, just go, see what happens. So, they have another big test this Saturday, August 24th is their next test against the Vikings. And like you said, it's the warm-up game, so the starters are going to play into the third quarter usually. The Vikings defense is a lot tougher than the Raiders defense. Rodney Gutner with the Raiders defensive coordinator, I believe that's his name. I just drew a blank there. But he's a disciple of the Vikings defensive coach there. So they're going to be even worse, and especially looking at this film, and they're going to be shoring up their defense because the Vikings are scheduled for a Super Bowl run here, and it's the first game on the road. 10 a.m. start time for the Cardinals on the 24th for this last, third preseason game here. So I don't know. I'm just hoping to see. I'm not saying game, like I said, I'm not saying game plan and show us all the playbook or anything like that. But I'd like to see Kyler Murray try to throw it downfield. I'd like to see, more than just these little dinky handoffs into the blitz, which I saw 3 times last night. He needs to check those out and get the running guys, David Johnson running away from the blitzes, and he was having them run right into them. And the Vikings are going to be another stoic test on defense, even though it is preseason coming up. So,
yeah, I mean, their offense is also pretty good as well. Cousins, Adam Thielen, and Diggs and all them. So, yeah, it's going to be another tough test. But like I said, I mean, this is the dress rehearsal game. So hopefully we open up a little bit of the playbook. I mean, obviously you only get a half to do it, so I don't expect them to see too much. And, I mean, I don't think that's really that hard to ask for at this point.
No, I mean, just show us what it's going to be like going into week 1. Like, give not just the fans, not even people like you and me that are, watching the team with, I have a critical eye on this team and I don't have high hopes for them, but I'm interested. But at least show us something, that there's a heartbeat on this team and that you have an idea. But like I said, not just for us, the players in that locker room, because like starters and saying they're too comfortable because they think they've made this team, and he'll go to the waiver wire and bring 15 guys in to take people's spots if they don't start performing. That's not a good sign in week 2 of the preseason.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. Steve Keim, he's up against it. We know that. We both know, and it's not far-fetched to say that if this doesn't work out, Steve Keim is definitely fired.
He's gone. Yeah. I mean, if they don't have a successful season this year, I mean, he's gone. No, he
did what he did last year. Brought in Wilkes, brought in Rosen, and then he had to change up that game plan and say, all right, we're bringing in Kingsbury and we're bringing in this quarterback. So this is it for him, I would imagine, going forward. So I get why he does that, but I just think it's way too soon right now. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe it's the spark this team needs, and, Coach K and Murray and all those guys. Well,
that's the thing is, Steve Keim is probably saying that on a radio. It was on 98.7, the Doug and Wolf show in the morning here. Huge show, and the flagship station of the Cardinals. And Wolf is the color analyst for the Cardinals broadcast, so there's a reason he said it on there, but there's so many red flags right now for me, and I'm already skeptical, and now these red flags are coming out even more. So, but we'll see coming up August 24th, 10 a.m. Phoenix time, Cardinals versus the Vikings. So it'll be interesting to see too, those 10 a.m. start times that usually kill West Coast teams. So if that first team comes out flat again and whatnot, I mean, you're going to see people running for the hills here and disappointment. And I think you're going to, hate to say it, I'm not saying, they're going to say, I mean, Kingsbury's already got 20-1 odds that he's going to be the first coach fired this year. It's never a good sign. And, I think you're going to see his seat get hyped up if they don't show something this weekend with the first team. And I'm not talking second team. I'm not talking third team. They can show whatever they want. If that first team offense, especially, but that defense needs to show something a little bit. I was like, throw a blitz in there. Like, how hard is it not to send a linebacker to blitz, right? Like, they don't even do that. They're just going in a base defense, and just show us an idea of what you got this week is all I'm asking. But I might be asking too much because I asked it last week too.
Well, outside of that, you also got to clean it up, I think, with the penalties as well.
Non-fundamental football, if I was an owner, even like as a college team, when there's non-fundamentals going on, it's the number one sign that the coaching staff isn't the right coaching staff, because that is basic football. You should be practicing that every day, all day, and those mental mistakes should not be happening at all.
Definitely.
So anyway, anything else for the game or looking forward?
No, just looking forward to waking up bright and early and watching football on a Saturday morning. Well, get me ready a week ahead for college. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the week before, so get you ready for the 31st weekend where all those games will be going on for college. So just getting you prepped for that. So definitely. Well, thanks for joining us on the Cardinals Rewind for preseason game number 2. You can reach Jason on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. You can tell him, Jason?
At at Jason Carter03.
And I'm on the same 3 platforms at SMAC500. Definitely interact with us. Let us know your opinions. Like I said, we kind of have differing opinions on football, and it kind of goes against other people. And we'd like to hear from everybody on what you think about the Cardinals so far and going forward. And we'll be back after the 24th game with our analysis after the 3rd game and what we're looking forward to on the 4th preseason game, getting ready for week number 1 against the Lions.